Alright, let's get into today's challenge stage. Mount Gulg, also known as Mount Gurgu, if you ever played the NES version of Final Fantasy. It has a relatively simple and straightforward quest to defeat the boss by dealing ice damage. Now that is a little misleading, I think, in its description. You don't necessarily have to defeat the boss directly with ice damage. You just have to have dealt some ice damage to the boss before you defeat it. So that's a little simpler to achieve than necessarily killing it outright with ice damage, but both are relatively achievable. There is something to help us a little bit also along the way. We have double damage with magic abilities, so we can make excellent use out of that. Let's get into the teams for this. I say teams, but really there's only necessarily one, at least one that I would strongly recommend. This is the team that got me to complete the quest as early as possible. Bear in mind, I'm saying as early or as quick as possible. This is not necessarily going to net you a lot of kills. It's just going to guarantee you complete that quest as quickly as you can. The centerpiece for the whole thing really is Squall with Lionheart. This is going to guarantee ice damage against that boss the moment they arrive. So you get to the boss quickly, you throw out some Lionheart, and then Shantotto backs you up with a extra powerful Ultima thanks to the double magic damage. Never mind the fact that she is stacked with Bluff. She pretty much has a free version of Play Rough going off before you even reach the boss. It's a little scary, honestly. On top of this, though, since we have double magic damage, even though Squall has atrocious magic, even at level 99, he's only got 72. So if you've unlocked him and you haven't reached level 99, don't hold your breath that he gets a good magic stat. But even with it, the double magic damage is going to make Dark hit like a regular magic caster. So that magic of 72 might as well be a magic of 272. It's kind of impressive. Terrain Blade is helpful partway through the stage. Doomsday is going. Words, getting ahead of yourself. Doomsday is going to go off on our second wave, so Dark is going to take care of the first, Doomsday will take care of the second, but Doomsday, even with Bluff and double damage, isn't quite enough. That's why we have Drain Blade. Drain Blade is going to follow up Doomsday or come out just before it so that you have a guaranteed very fast second wave. Otherwise, you just wait until you reach the boss, hit them with Lionheart, and then hit them with the Ultima, and carry on to the victory. Just don't screw up your notes afterwards. You've completed the quest at that point. You just got to survive long enough to beat the stage. Outside of that, the only other thing we have to worry about is getting through that stage and up to the boss as quickly as we can so that we have enough time to beat them. Obviously, this team is going to destroy the boss very quickly, as well as take care of the other waves, but maybe you don't have Shantotto, maybe you don't have Squall. Chocobo and Onion Knight are going to be wonderful additions just for their extra agility speed. They'll carry just about any team of characters to that boss within, I want to say, about half the time of the stage. It's really hard to say. You can use any team for the most part. But their Chocobo Dash and the Sprint are the real reasons we're using them. Sprint and Chocobo Dash give you an additional 100% travel speed each, so combined that's about 200% extra travel speed, and that's for the entire duration of the stage. There is a bonus of extra wind damage with Chocobo Dash, but we're not making use out of that. Sprint has another bonus of reducing the triggers for attack abilities. I think attack abilities or just any abilities that have like a trigger count, but we're not making use of that either. Hastemarch and Dash are just there to further fortify our speed. So if you have, really slow characters, Hastemarch is going to help them with a little extra 30, technically 60, an additional 60 agility to each character. It's not much, but it's something. It helps just a little bit. Dash, very similar to these, it's an additional 100% to your travel speed. They go off simultaneously. So the moment you start in the stage, Dash goes off twice. It's kind of wasted in that instance, but when you're between your first and second battles, Dash is going to go off simultaneously again. So that is still stacking, along with your Chocobo Dash and Sprint. It's maybe a little overkill. I tested whether or not it was making a difference, and it does make the slightest difference. So if you don't care about being that fast, and there is a cap to how fast your characters can travel, you could swap these off with other stuff. You could put poison on your Chocobo. Poison is just about as good as Doomsday and Dark at clearing your first and second waves. It's not as efficient, but the damage is consistent. So good trigger timing plus poison is usually enough to clear wave 1 and 2, no problem. Chocobo Knight, oh my god. Chocobo Knight would be sick. Onion Knight, you could swap in Barrage, Fire, Tornado Blade, Thunder. Hell, if you have a Ruin Scroll, you could give it to him. And they'd be excellent alternatives to Dash and Haste. Well, Dash, Hastemarch, and Haste, because he also has Haste. But I honestly didn't see a need for it. If you really want to go for kills and completing the quest, you could go for that, but I didn't really see the point in it. Haste itself, I'll just touch on it a little bit. It's very similar to Sprint or Chocobo Dash. It lasts for the entire stage, but it's only a 50% increase in your travel speed. I tried replacing it with Hastemarch and swapping it in over Dash. It was actually a little bit slower at getting me to the boss, but I didn't bother testing if it was actually faster at getting me through all of the stages waves. So if you care about kill counts, maybe use Haste instead of something like Dash and Hastemarch, but they're really unnecessary for them. Your primary goal for using these characters and this team lineup is go fast and hit hard for waves 1, 2, and boss. So boss is third wave, by the way. That's really all they care about. Just go fast and hit hard. Just try not to hit too hard, because if you're not using someone like Squall and you just have Blizzard Blade or Blizzard, you might hit them so hard with Ultima that you kill them before you hit them with that ice damage. So be careful about your trigger timings. If you're running to run with Ultima on your team and you don't necessarily have a Squall, maybe swap Ultima off for something else. These are some alternative characters. As I said earlier, this is this is a stage you can clear, a quest you can clear really easily with just about anyone that has ice damage. I did highlight a couple of extra characters and or teams that you could try. I don't think these are necessarily teams, so much as I am just listing the characters up for you guys. You can mix and match however you want. Firion is a reasonable alternative. I think a lot of people will have him unlocked at the start of the game, since Final Fantasy II is one of the starter series you can select to unlock at the very beginning. He does have Blizzard Blade, and I don't think he has to be very high level to unlock Blizzard Blade. Same with Thunder Blade. Blood Blade is pretty decent, but he doesn't really have much else beyond that. That's really gonna help, because you're really needing some damage through this. You need good speed. His agility set is okay. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's not bad like Squall and Shantotto's. Well, Squall's not too terrible, but Shantotto's awful. Another good character, if you played or unlocked Final Fantasy Type 0, is Kurasame. He has End Blizzard to further boost your ice damage, so if you are trying to nuke the boss with ice damage, this is going to help with that. He comes with Blizzard, Blizzara, and Blizzaga, as well as a character unique skill called Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero hits about as hard as Blizzaga, but it has its catch is that it does not use hold triggers like Blizzard. It uses touch triggers like Fire and Fyra. In fact, I think its trigger requirement is about on par with Fyra as a spell, or Fyra Blade. So it goes off pretty regularly on a lot of battle stages, not so much on a travel stage. In fact, there is a caveat or warning against using Absolute Zero and Blizzaga. There are not enough triggers to activate Absolute Zero Blizzaga or Blizzaga Blade if you're playing this stage on basic difficulty. So if you have Kurasame or someone else with, Blizzaga Blade or Blizzaga the spell, consider swapping them off unless you're playing on Expert and higher. And even with that, those are going to go off at the very end of the stage. Not likely something you're going to hit the boss with, unless you're running a very slow team. Maybe you got a team like this. You don't have someone like Chocobo, Knight or Chocobo. You're running C, D, and E agility characters. So that's a pretty slow-moving team. You might just barely be getting to the boss in time, in which case Blizzaga could actually be, the saving grace for you. Paine is another good alternative character. pretty much like Kurasame, but melee. Just a bunch of ice elemental attacks. Ice Brand goes off midway through if you're hitting your criticals well. You could even intentionally mistime your criticals to make sure Ice Brand goes off when the boss appears, but that's a little sweaty for me to recommend in gameplay-wise. Cid Raines is a unique one to recommend. He doesn't have any ice element, but he does come with Dark and Doomsday, which are fantastic, as mentioned earlier, for clearing the first and second wave, especially with our double magic damage. Seraphonic Ray is there if you want to further weaken the boss. The boss is already weak to ice. Seraphonic Ray will give a further, I think, 50% reduction to all elemental resistance. So that boss is going to really melt to, ice damage. And if you wanted to put, Cid at the very back of your party, because this is a character unique ability, it will still go off before things like Ultima or well, it won't necessarily go off before Lionheart if you have Squall and Cid in the same party, but you could have Seraphonic Ray go off and Blizzard will have already been gone off, and in the meantime you're about to unleash a stored amount of Blizzard, Blizzara, and Blizzard Blade, and the boss is just going to scream for mercy and die. So Cid Raines, kind of a strategic character. He's not great overall, but for situations like this where you just need to clear a few waves and weaken a boss, he is excellent. If you really want some heavy spellcasters, because these aren't necessarily great at spellcasters, well, Kurasame is pretty decent, but if you really care about spell slinging and you just care about getting Blizzard and Blizzara out there all day, these ladies will get your job done. Not necessarily having to pair them all together, but Terra's got dual casters, is fantastic. Blizzard and Blizzara, no Blizzaga, but I mean, she's got Ultima, as mentioned. Maybe don't use that, you might nuke the boss before Blizzard goes off. Aphmau is mostly there for the poison to assist with Wave 1 and Wave 2. Realignment will help you get more casts of Blizzard and Blizzara off. I want to say she may even help you get Blizzaga off on basic difficulty with realignment. I never tested that. I never did the math for it. I want to say you could, but don't quote me on that. It's just likely. Edea and Ultimecia, pretty much more the same. They just have the full suite of Blizzard through Blizzaga. They have a couple other things, like Ice Strike will go off on the second wave, so it's not going to hit your boss, but you're still going to deal heavy damage to that second wave. And since the second wave on this stage is just a single tough enemy, I think it's an ogre, Ice Strike is fantastic. It's a little less helpful if the second wave is a bunch of smaller enemies. Doomsday is maybe a better alternative to Ice Strike on situations where you have a stage with Wave 2 having a bunch of weaker enemies instead of one strong enemy. Bluff also is fantastic, and you can swap her with anything here. She's just great at getting things done. Sorceress Art, kind of an alternative off-brand Bluff. It's not great for boosting her damage, but plus, if you're at low levels, plus 600 magic by the end of a stage that's nothing to laugh about. That's pretty good. She's got, of course, Ultima. You might want to swap that off. Blizzard, Blizzara, all that stuff. Really helpful. Leon and Cecil, I don't recommend them, but I will talk about them here. If you don't have Squall or Cid Raines or anyone that has, Dark or Doomsday or Poison, and you're just looking for like, what characters do I have right now that I can work with? Kind of like with Firion, since Final Fantasy II might have been your first series to unlock at the start of the game, probably have Leon. Leon learns Dark just like Squall. So even though he has also a really bad magic attack stat, the double magic damage will allow this to hit plenty hard. Unlike Firion, though, he only gets Blizzara and Blizzaga, so he's not going to have great DPS, but he's going to be able to hit pretty damn hard. Meteor Blade can be an alternative on him. If you are wanting to play this on basic difficulty for some reason, you will get Meteor Blade off by the end of the stage. Probably don't need it, though. Maybe don't use Dark Knight's Charge. There's a risk of dealing too much damage to the boss before Blizzard or Blizzara Blade go off. Just try to stick with your bread and butter. Blizzara, hell, boost your difficulty to Expert if you're confident in your skills. That way you can have, Blizzaga and Blizzara and Blizzard if you're teaming him up with Firion. You get Dark, you get every tier of Ice Blade going off. it's really helpful. Cecil, a little less so. He just has Dark. Paladin Force and Holy Blade are fine, but they're nothing you can really rely on. But Cecil is an alternative for you if you happen to have him unlocked, and you don't have, Leon or Cid or Squall. That being said, mix and match your characters however you would like. Just be careful with the trigger timings for your abilities. I will mention ahead of time, I was unable. I know it says I cleared it, but my ability to clear Supreme stages is very hit and miss. So I was unable to record this with a quest complete on Supreme. I am almost positive. I'm 99.9% certain the Squall, Shantotto, Chocobo, Onion Knight team can clear this quest no problem, even on Supreme. You just have to, be good enough with your own ability to hit those triggers. So this team is the one that I would recommend if you're trying to do it on any of the difficulties. Otherwise, let's get into the stages and have some fun.